Welcome to episode 2 of how to play Star Wars Galaxies. I'm just going to go ahead and go into one area that seems to trip up a lot of people. Um, Not everybody, but it can get a little confusing, especially if you've never done crafting before. I want to start you off, basically. I went ahead and deleted one of my characters. Didn't really do much with her anyways. But I just recreated her and started her off as a crafter, and I just skipped the tutorial and went straight into Mos Eisley, which is what would happen. So this is how I got her. I went and equipped a couple clothes for her, and this is what you get. Now this right here is your crafting tool. This is the generic one. It's the one. This one is actually what comes with your character, so it has a little bit of a mod to it, but it's barely nothing. So if you want to start crafting, you double click on it, or you can even right click and go start crafting. And you see list your items. Now these categories here for clothing, food, generic item, miscellaneous, they will all change depending on your profession. I chose her as a engineer. I wanted some very basic small items to make for this tutorial, and but if I had picked actually a domestic, I would have had a lot more options in clothing, a lot more in food, but I would have a lot less in miscellaneous. The generic will totally just that will change depending on who you are. Um, the other crafting professions will actually be very different. You'll also have things for armor, structures, droids, all sorts of things. So, but for starting off, you'll see you have your categories. Like these are components. Components are items that are used to go into other parts. So, for example, these pants that are only for an Ithorian, over here on the requirements, it says it needs one fiberglass panel to make. So that means you need to make one fiberglass panel in order to make these pants in addition to the other units that it requires. So that means starting off, make this. You'll need the 8 units of fiberglass, 2 units of metal, and then once that's done crafting, you can use that just as you would a resource, and you also use 13 units of this inert petrochemical, and then you would eventually, once it's done in the crafting tool, you would actually have your pants. This is the very basic concept for all of crafting and probably 99% of Star Wars Galaxies for traders. You Everything you make is a mixture of this, making different components, making them in factories because you have to have components that are identical. So this is the basics. But starting off, you'll notice I don't have any resources. How do you get resources? Well, if you don't have any friends, you starting off, you have no money. Let's say you skip the tutorial like I did, and you have nothing. You can't buy anything. They start you off with a mineral survey device. You can later on make additional survey devices for other things like fruits and chemicals and stuff, but this is for minerals. So to starting off, you can either double click it, and it should do, I already clicked on it once, but if you right click it, you can set range. The higher level you are, you can expand your range that you can actually search in. You can different by meters and points. But I'm going to go ahead and do the maximum because I want to get a good range. Once you set that, double clicking on it will give you your options. This list will change depending on what planet you're on, and will even then change based on the resources that change over time. Some, I don't think come out but once a year. When they do, they're not for very long, and when they come out, people mine them like crazy. But so basically, pick a resource. We want to go with a metal because we want anything that's in our metal. A steel is pretty generic, so it's always good to have those on hand. So we're going to go ahead and try that. We're going to do survey. Notice the thing that came out, and we get our data. The arrow here points which direction I'm headed. So if I point my screen out here, I can start moving. I can walk and figure out which direction to go. And you also have your waypoint that shows up. So we're going to head in that direction. You can close these windows out each time if you want. I just like to leave them open. When you get near this again, if the percentage isn't good enough, you can survey again. And you'll notice it got a little higher farther away. Now ideally when you're doing this, if you're really trying to go for a good good high rate. If you have a vehicle, you get on a vehicle and you start surveying as you're on your vehicle, and you can really hunt things pretty quick. Now we're getting a pretty good number. I want to at least get something in the I guess the 40s would be good, just because I want to definitely get some minerals to use. All right, so now we're gonna go get sample. Notice my character kneels down. Says I failed to get a sample. Now I may cut out some of this part because I may have to walk away for a second again back to the crafting station, or I might finish, but also it may just take a while for this to actually finally give me some minerals. But I guarantee you, this is how you can get some. Um, it will take a little while, but if you're only needing 10 minerals or even 20 or 30, this isn't really that big of a deal to do. So see, this may not be a good enough of a number to actually get some. So let's go a little further out. So now let's try it right here. Still failed. Now part of this is because I'm level 5. I don't have very good skills. Getting anything is really bad. That's just kind of the way it is. So I just looked at we've really got a good percentage rate, because if I was stuck with the 20s of everything, then I had to go drive or walk out somewhere to find something. And you do have a time that you have to wait in between sample rates. There you go. Alright, I got 9 units. I'm going to go ahead and stop. See if there's anything we can make. Open up our inventory. Open up the crafting tool. Now I'm going to go to miscellaneous. There might be something in here. I have a feeling there won't be anything that's that crappy we can make. Yeah, we tend to need a little bit more. Let's go back in. Okay, so we have our 27 units. We're going to open the crafting tool. We're going to make a chemical survey device because we might need to look for some chemical minerals as well. We can double click to drop them in there, or you can click and drag to put the items in. Now this isn't a very complex item, so over here normally if it's a very hard to make item, it'll actually give you quality, not this, but it'll give you the details of how good the items are to the item you're making. You can see that what I got is pretty crappy, given the red, so it's not very good. But this item doesn't really matter. You don't have to use high quality resources for this. So we're going to assemble. Use a yes, because once you click the assemble, you've lost these resources. You are officially making the item. Now it gives you the details. It gives you a serial number because this makes this item very unique. There's no other item that's going to be like it. It's kind of like a thumbprint. It gives you the option creator, so that way if I trade this to somebody else, it will keep my name on there for other people to know who made that, which is good because if you made a really good item, other people can get a hold of you because they may want another one of it. The effectiveness, this will go up. We might have to touch on this later because there's a thing called experimenting. Really can't do it on this item, and that might be on a more advanced tutorial. But and this is also where you have the option to make the item, like name it. So once you do this, you're officially done. This is creating the object that will go in your inventory. So if you want to name it something, you can say first item I made for fun. Now you do create object. Now, but if you don't want to do that, let's say you're actually making to level up. If you do practice mode, you can check it. If you do practice though, it will not actually give you the item, but it will give you more experience. So when you are trying to level up and you're making a lot of items to level up your crafter, then you can do that. It will give you a little bit of a boost. It's actually pretty worth it if you're making an item that gives you a lot of experience. So I always recommend practicing, especially if you're making, hundreds of items. You don't have that kind of room in your inventory, and you don't want to sit there and have to constantly delete items that you're making just for the experience. So let's go ahead and create object. We want this. Again, it asks you, yes, I want to make it. And you'll see a number pops up on your crafting tool. tells you how many seconds. It's approximate seconds. It's not exact in this game, but it's pretty close. And once it's done, the item will show up in your inventory, and there you go. So if we want to start doing this one, double click on it, pick our item or area, double click it again, and you can pick a chemical. So we wanted to see, let's say we want to get a polymer. We survey, and we see the rate. And this is actually a much better rate. So if you want to start doing chemicals, start doing it here. I'll touch in on how to use harvesters later. They're a way if you really start wanting to get some serious amounts of resources. The other way is if you can make some money or get some money from a friend or whatever, you can buy your resources. Really cheap resources to help you level up really aren't that expensive. It's just that it does require a lot of them. So, but that's it for basic crafting. We'll head back to the city, and I'll touch on crafting stations later as well. And I will be doing a series of a whole bunch of these crafting ones. I've done a bit of crafting myself, so hope to look forward to doing some of these. But until then, that's the this is the end. Hope you enjoyed it. See you next time.